Slightly overcast after overnight rain here at Watkins Glen International, but you don't get a green and pleasant land without a little bit of precipitation, and my goodness, this is very pleasant indeed. Just about perfect racing conditions for the second race of the weekend for the IMSA Mazda MX-5 Cup presented by BF Goodrich Tyres. We are at the Finger Lakes, in the Finger Lakes region of upstate New York. Watkins Glen has a rich history of motorsport, and the 3.4 mile 11 corner circuit has a little bit of everything. Fast flowing corners, big braking areas, opportunities to overtake down into turn one, downhill braking area for the Brave on the right hand side of the inner loop, the bus stop, and then coming up over the rise into turn 8, the heel of the boot. Hello everybody, I'm John Hindorf, and along with Shea Adam, I'll be describing the action and the entertainment, and there's plenty of that to come in the next 50 minutes or thereabouts, with 45 of those behind the about to get underway after we get the cars rolling. Let's get you up to date with what happened yesterday in a race that was full of incident. From the start, it was Gresham Wagner who led through turn one, with the rest of the field streaming through. A problem for Max Opalski in the green car, and Sam Pearley, who had their spin, Sam in the number 28, rejoined at the back of the pack. Thomas Annunziata, the rookie from New Jersey, going through into the lead. Wagner pushed down to the bottom end of the top 5. Then Gresham Wagner chasing back into third position, hard into the wall at turn number 9, brought out our first safety car. As we got back underway racing, Aaron Johnson taking the lead from his team leader, Jared Thomas. Then the big incident of the day, with a multi-car crash, Robert Noecker tapping the back of the Anthony McIntosh number 69 car, with the Neudorf 55, Celine Roland number 87, all involved, and we came through under yellow flag for the second win in 2 races for Aaron Johnson. Shea Adam, the championship then, championship lead for Aaron Johnson extended slightly yesterday. It
was, and we saw those 2 moments of contact out on track. Max Opalski being ruled as at fault with the contact with Sam Paley. That resulted in an effective drive-through penalty being issued for Max, even though he couldn't serve it during the race. Time added to his time at the end of the race, and Anthony McIntosh found at fault for that massive multi-car pileup. He will not be participating in today's race. Too much damage to his car to repair. The other car we've lost from yesterday is Hannah Zellers in the number 74. She will not be taking the start of today's race, so we have only 1 woman in the field, but that is the form of our championship winner as far as the scholarship was concerned, Heather Hadley.
Celine Roland will start on pole position in the 87 from Jared Thomas for JTR in the number 96. Aaron Johnson, the championship leader and yesterday's winner, will start on the inside of row 2 in another JTR Motorsport Engineering car. Robert Noecker not penalised for that incident yesterday. Race Control have more views than we do, and they obviously decided that there was it was a 50-50 or a racing incident. Then it's Jonathan Neudorf, the best of the rookies for Hickson Motorsport, on the inside of row 3 from Matthew Dirks and Macumbi Bacalea Racing. Woody Hyman for JTR, James Hinchcliffe for JTR in 7th and 8th. James with a very creditable 6th, passing cars in the middle of that melee. Used all of his IndyCar skills to get through what could have been a nasty incident. Anthony McIntosh back, even having been turned around yesterday. He'll start from 9th, and Alex Bachura starting from 10th. Thomas Annunziata, top rookie yesterday, right at the front of the field. Outside the top 10 at 11, as is Gresham Wagner after that incident yesterday. So that's how they line up on the Mazda starting grid.
You'll want to keep an eye on our pole sitter. Celine Roland comes into this second in the championship, so now he's got a real shot at it, and all he needs to do is keep Aaron Johnson behind him.
Misspoke there, actually. Anthony McIntosh not racing here today because of the damage sustained in that incident. Still on the grid sheet here. 45 minutes on the clock. Are you ready to be entertained? In a bit two, Mazda MX-5 Cup presented by BF Goodrich Tyres. Race 2 at Watkins Glen International is green. Down towards the first corner, Jared Thomas tries to come around the outside of the red car with the yellow rule too, but he can't get it done. But he slots nicely into second behind Celine Roulin, who had a cracker of a start. But now we're 2 and 3 wide behind the leaders, and it looks like Jared Thomas has eased his way onto the right-hand side of the track. For a moment, he took the lead. Here comes Noaker as well in the number 13, the black and white car. Oh, there's a spin. Matthew Dirks has gone around. This is going to be another big one. Huge incident. Huge incident.
That's Woody Hyman.
Hyman getting kicked around. All kinds of debris from the sponsors, logos.
Nate Cicero's in there too, I'm sorry to say, from Macumbi Macular Racing. The young man going for Rookie of the Year. Into the pit lane before the start was Max Sapolsky. He is still sitting on the pit lane, revving his engine. Things don't sound good for the number 2 machine.
Let's try and pick out who's in there. The 82
Grant West in the 50.
Is Woody Hyman, the JTR car. That's the yellow and black machine. Matthew Dirks was involved. Also in there.
Catcher.
Sam Paley's in there as well in the 28, the red car. Clayton Fletcher in the 19 green and white car.
And Clayton Ketcher, who is planning to only make 2 race weekends this year, this being one of them, the second at Road America. I hope this doesn't impact that. Grant West, as I mentioned, has put the window net down. That's a good sign. That
normally says, I'm okay. Oh, Nate Cicero involved as well. This has decimated the field. We might even get a red flag here because there's so much debris on the circuit. Big wiggly moment from Matthew Dirks. Not sure. Matthew Dirks' car, I think, already behind the wall there.
One of them definitely was, John. You're correct on that, isn't it?
And I think it was the silver car.
Yep, that would be Matthew Dirks.
Big damage to the number 82 JTR machine of Woody Hyman, the Save-A-Lot machine.
That's heartbreaking for Woody. He does this because he loves it. He had a great run yesterday, finished inside the top 10, which for Woody Hyman, who's looking at the championship, he finished 9th yesterday. He's 10th in points. This could have been a big day for him.
Well, the good news is that we can see drivers out of their cars. The field coming across the start-finish line. Other cars damaged as well, including James Hinchcliffe, with some damage to his right-hand side. He was right in amongst that. Let's try and work out what happened. I'm pretty certain it was Matthew Dirks in the silver car in the middle of 3. So that was the battle for 5th position. He's got the 55 to his right. Now, does he get a little clip? Oh, he just basically, he's the meat in the sandwich there. And James Hinchcliffe's to his left. Matthew goes left and right and left and right. I've got it, I don't got it. Hits Hyman, and that is the catalyst for everything else.
Wow.
Dirks gets spun around. Then we had Woody Hyman in the middle of the track. Some absolutely ace avoidance by the cars that were coming up from around about 10th, 11th and 12th down, and somebody ran over their own wheel. So the top 4 are clear at the moment, and that was a big hit from Woody, who was catapulted across the track.
Gosh, Clayton Ketcher gets thrown up in the air.
That was the car that ran over its own right front wheel, the green and white car, and then everybody else at that point is hard on the middle pedal, trying to slow things down.
Thomas Annunziata needs to buy a lottery ticket right now, because Woody Hyman speared across in front of him and wound up taking out Clayton Ketcher instead of wrapping up what is Annunziata's backup car this weekend. That's why he looks exactly like our leader, Celine Roulin.
The field picked their way through the carnage, bits of car and tyre rolling all the way to halfway down the straight, and there's more cars damaged as well that are still rolling. Dirks was right in the middle of that battle for 5th position, with Jonathan Neudorf, the 55 car, on one side of him to his right, and James Hinchcliffe to the left. I don't think any blame attached to any of those drivers there. That's hard racing. 3 into that area. We saw them go 2 wide. Look, the leading 4 are 2 wide and get through that part of the circuit. 3 perhaps pushing their luck a little bit. And the knock-on effect, as soon as I saw that car getting loose, I knew it was going to be a big accident, because there's nowhere to go at that point. It's one of the narrowest parts of the circuit.
And as they're going through the S's, 3 wide, people. This is not something that happens every day in every form of racing. Gresham Wagner was on the inside of Matthew Dirks and then Thomas Annunziata on the outside. But Gresham managed to get through because he had the ideal line coming up through the S's. Hinch was following him through. So it really was just bad luck at that moment.
This is going to take some time to get this cleared up. The clock continues to run. There are still at least 4, possibly 5 cars. What I don't really understand is how Matthew Dirks' car got behind the fence. It didn't go over it. No. We know that for sure. So unbelievably, he must have had enough control to drive that car off the track. And given what was going on around him, that's extraordinary. Woody Hyman's car looking probably the worst off. That car bounced around like a pinball. It was...
And got used as a bit of a punching bag.
It certainly did. It was Clayton Kirsch's Saito Motorsport Group car that got airborne after running over its own right front wheel and suspension. Well, if the fans and enthusiasts down there at the top of turn 4 weren't awake already, they are now. Hinch has got a little bit of damage to the sill on the right-hand side, just picking their way through the carnage right now is the number 2 of Max Opalski.
Yeah, and he's been in and out of the pits this whole time, John. Right when the green flag flew, he came down the pit lane, the crew put the engine cover up, started listening to it, revving it. I think that car is not
and it still
100%.
Doesn't sound right. He's off the lead lap, but he sits in 18th position. So let's quickly go through. Alex Batura, Spark Performance involved in that as well. Nick Cicero, Clayton Ketcher we've referenced, with Sam Paley, Grant West, Woody Hyman and Matthew Dirks. And Max Opalski just back out of the pit, so he's still running. So I reckon that was 7 cars involved in that. Add that to Anthony McIntosh and Hannah Zellers, who we didn't see take the race after a similar incident slightly further back down the track yesterday. And that is going to leave us with 18 Mazda MX-5s to contest the last 37 minutes of the race.
It's a lot of debris for our safety crew to pick up.
Awful lot of debris.
And thank you to our safety crew for
Indeed
being out there.
So it all started coming up through turn 3 with... It was Gresham Wagner, wasn't it? The 5 car that was actually right there. Hinch tried to follow him through.
He got a great run, though, did Gresham?
He did. He was out of that before it really started, but he had to ride the curb up turn 3. Very, very, very quick part of the circuit. And glad to say at the moment we've seen, I think, at least 5 of the 7 drivers. There'll also be some barrier repair to do. It's the green and white number 19 car that went for the biggest ride. Clayton Kircher.
Finished 14th in yesterday's race, did Clayton. Really good showing for a first run in this series.
Man, oh man, who was that coming through at the back? The 54 car of Heather Hadley. That was a great piece of driving by Heather in the Spark Performance car to slow down and pick a lane and then pick her way through some quite large pieces of debris, actually. It's the worst thing you can do when you're in the middle of a pack. You have so little time to respond to what's going on. Almost has to be instinctive. The wrecker trucks are there. All of the wrecker trucks are there.
And
that's still,
all of the safety crews.
And it's not going to be enough to get them all away.
Matthew Dirks, where he stopped on the track, it was directly across the track from that opening in the guardrail, so I think he just saw the light and drove straight through.
Stuck it into first and whatever he could do to get the car to pull forward.
Very smart young man is Matthew Dirks.
He's a good lad, and I don't think any blame can be put on him or indeed any of the other drivers around him. It was Gresham Wagner, Hinch and who did I say the other one was? It was the
Thomas
55.
Jonathan Neudorf.
Yeah, they were all just battling for position. That was good, hard racing.
Well, we should note that while we are behind the safety car, with 10 minutes of the race elapsed, we've had 3 laps complete. Celine Roland has led all of those 3 laps, and there are bonus points for leading the most laps.
Jonathan Neudorf in the the orange and black car to the right of the track. Gresham Wagner to the left, and the silver car in the middle was the car that precipitated it all. But that was just a little bit of hip and shoulder from Neudorf, and then into Hinch, and then bounced back. And there was a moment, I'm sure, when Matthew Dirks thought, I've got this, I've got it. Oh, no, I haven't. Oh, no, I don't got it.
Credit to Jonathan Neudorf. He had a couple of really good saves there, too. I mean, his car was wiggling and coming across the top of the S's. It was a Canadian sandwich, or a half Canadian sandwich, I suppose, with Hinch on one side and Jonathan Neudorf, who claims Alberta as one of the places he comes from, the other being Arizona.
Anything beginning with an A?
Not Alabama, shockingly, or Alaska.
So behind the Mazda MX-5 safety car,
Celine Roland is very happy for this to continue under yellow, because all of a sudden he can go around and continue racking up the points.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. The clock continues to count down. We're down to 34 minutes remaining now that the drivers have been attended to and the cars are beginning to be pulled out the way, the track services team turn their attention to potential damage to the safety fence on driver's left.
Now, in recent years, I've developed more of a relationship with Guardrail for reasons we don't need to talk about, but I happen to notice, not because I've hit it or replaced it, none of that.
No. I know what you're talking about.
I know how it's created, and it's a very interesting process. But Guardrail, there's a Department of Transportation base at the bottom of this hill.
Yes, there is.
Just as we come into the racetrack.
Yes, there is.
So if they needed more guardrail and say the state wanted to help out, I know where some is.
Yeah, it's a good point.
We can find some fairly easily.
They have the salt machines down there as well, the gritting machines, don't they? I saw that.
They're building something new, an extension to it as well. Yeah.
Noticed that when we came in earlier in the week. Let's talk about what all of these drivers are here for. That's A, to race, B, to have fun, but C, there is a financial incentive here, Shay.
Just a little one.
$1.2 million in prize fund across the season. That's right, $1.2 million with $250,000 for the series winner. Come back in just a second. I'm just hearing from race control that James Hinchcliffe is going to get a mechanical black flag. The sill piece is now, which was sort of wafting, is now dangling off, and if that number 3 sill doesn't fall off in the next 10 yards from the 6th position car, he's going to have to come in the pits, and that's what he's going to do. He can't risk that falling off. Now, he won't lose the lead lap, but cue a comeback drive from James Hinchcliffe after this.
You know, I was going to say he needs to channel Taylor Swift and shake it off as we get another look of the moment where it knocked off.
Just the silver car in the middle of that sandwich. Hinch is going to follow through Gresham Wagner in the white, green and orange car. And there's the little touch. There's the little touch between Hinch and Matthew Dirks. And it's left, right, left, right. Oh, so close. So close. Sometimes doing nothing is the thing to do. And Matthew was trying not to get behind on the steering. And then he realised it was going and he had to press the brake pedal. But it was the tiniest of touches between those two cars. Big hit for Woody Hyman in the yellow and black car as he speared across the track. Then the 19 going up in the air, having fired itself up from its own wheel. Looked like something out of a movie. Clayton Kershaw effectively running over his own wheel, which catapulted him into the air. The car stayed right side up. And still some damaged vehicles to be moved, including the number 50 car of Grant West in the Spark Performance machine.
So as I was going to say with James, if this was a normal situation where he was racing for a win and points and a championship, and for some of that money that we were talking about, he would have channeled Taylor Swift and just shaken it off. But because he's not here to interfere with any of the championships, he doesn't want to leave debris around the track. He doesn't want to do anything that would potentially interrupt the race, because he's not so much of an interloper as he is a ghost in this race. Yes, he can take trophies, but he's not here to try and ruin anything that anyone else is doing across the year. Very classy of him to pull into the pit lane to get that bit of bodywork removed. And also into the pit lane was Glenn McGee, who was having some right side work done on his car, but now he's back onto the racetrack. Another JTR Motorsport Engineering car as well.
Well, the guys from JTR will have just pulled off the remaining fixing, so James will be able to get round to the back of the queue, but of course that's going to drop him well down the order.
Would you like to know some of these financial figures?
I would, yes. So we've not changed anything from the past couple of seasons where there's been quite a lot of money at the end of the season. So it's always been $250,000 for the winner,
85 for second,
85,
50
right?
grand for third.
This is in the end of season championship standings.
End of season. 20 for fourth, 15 for fifth, pays all the way down to 10th. And by the way, rookie of the year, 80 grand.
Right. What's been added this year for the first time, as Alex Pachura's car got all the way down to the inner loop and now has been attended to.
Oh, good effort, Alex.
33 machine, that might just need a flat toe. What's been added to bump the Mazda real cash folding money prize fund up to $1.2 million is race payouts. Every race, not just every weekend, every single race, and that goes how?
6 grand for the race winner, second gets 5 grand, third gets 4, then you've got 3 and 2 for fourth and fifth. 6th through 10th gets $1,000 each. Highest finishing woman in the race gets 2 grand. That adds up over 14 races of the season. Now, I'm not good at math. Thank you, Aaron, for doing this for me. $378,000 extra.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a good chunk of change. That would buy a house.
Well done, Mazda, for putting money in to this level of racing. And what it has done, of course, is means that, yes, of course, there are drivers who are in this championship who will look at this as a stepping stone. But what we are starting to see now is this as a destination and a race series in its own right. And people building businesses and careers. Look at Jared Thomas, took his winnings last year, bought some more cars, bought a GT4 car. How many cars are they running here?
All of them. 27,000.
Yes.
No, it's quite magnificent, especially when you walk under their tent. I first went over to JTR 2 years ago at Daytona. It was them and one other car.
Correct, two cars.
Jared and one other car for Dave and Jared. They were running it
Dave's
out of
Jared's dad, by the way.
Dave Thomas, not of that fame,
right.
Of other fame, but there were the 2 cars. There was a pop-up tent and a very short white trailer that you would normally see. I'm not even going to say snowmobiles, maybe one snowmobile in the back of. Very, very short operation. Now they have a full semi. They've got 6 cars under their tent on any given weekend. Some weekends they have 7. And not all of those are Mazdas, because they've expanded the realm and their kingdom. They are turning into not only a powerhouse team in this championship, but they're doing well in other ones too.
Talked to Aaron Johnson on Wednesday when we did our live midweek motorsport show, as we do every week through the year, pretty much every week throughout the year. And he said, look, it's as simple as this. Without that kind of financial support that Mazda has put into this championship, I just would not be here.
Yeah.
He was, Aaron's leading the championship. 250 grand is a lot of money for most people. It would be a huge amount of money for Aaron. He was earning a living. He was earning a living at food deliveries. He was telling us he's got a 187,000 mile Toyota Corolla, which he was running around in doing his food deliveries and delivering coupons and such like. That was not just funding his race career, that was funding his life.
Yeah, he's from a place called Sulphur, Louisiana, and if you've never heard of it, there's a reason you haven't heard of it. It's not a big city, it's not a big town, and it's a place where people don't often leave and then travel the world. Well, that's what's been afforded to Aaron by his success through racing and by people believing in him, such as the Turn 2, which are the sponsors of him coming in this year, an organization that believes in him so much. They've actually made him race director of their little club, and they've got 9 MX-5 Cup cars now. They've started their own sub-series for drivers who aren't capable of running in this championship yet, but Aaron is the guy who's going to help them.
I think it is still the case that on any given weekend, more Mazdas are racing around the world than anything else. The Miata Cup Series, National Series, the MX-5 Cup, both here in the US, Europe and the rest of the world. Very, very popular little sports car, proper little sports car. These cars, they might look pretty straight stock, and that's deliberate. Obviously, they aren't. The cars come in from Yokohama into Florida. I think they come into Jacksonville, actually, at Florida. And they
the port?
Yeah.
Yep.
And then they are taken down to the workshops of the Fliss brothers.
Fliss Performance.
And basically, they are disassembled. So they are standard road cars when they come in, and they are broken down to their component parts. First thing that happens is the engine and the gearbox and the rear axle comes off the car. So we are talking a full strip down. The engine is put to one side with a little note on it saying which chassis it came out of. Then it's sealed with Mazda Sport tags so that nobody can mess around with it. Then everything else is taken off the car, and then over 250 full race parts are bolted onto the car, and that's things like suspension, SADF gearbox, new rear axle. That's a sequential gearbox, by the way, with flat shift and auto blip on the way down. James Hinchcliffe was very impressed with that. He said, "I've never had it so good in a small sports car." It just spoils you, yeah. The racing wheels, the FIA cage, which
from Long Road Racing.
Yeah, which Tom Longstad, who for many years were involved in the building of these cars as well.
His late mum and his dad.
His late mum and his dad, absolutely.
And we still miss Alana every day.
Every day. Great personality in the paddock. Fire suppression system. You can have a second seat, second rear seat if you want. You can bolt in and out, so you can take friends, colleagues, or people you don't like out in the car and give them an experience of what pure racing is like. The race wheels and, of course, the BF Goodrich racing tyres. However, the engine is street stock. Remember that engine that we put to one side of Fliss Performance? That goes back in. The cars are all finished originally in white, and then they are handed over with a logbook and a set of instructions to their new owners.
And it's not like Lego when you start building something and then by the end you've got all these extra pieces and you don't know where they should have gone. The Fliss brothers have done more than 200 of these cars since we first got them into North America. So they're very well accustomed to what goes where. And I also will say, without giving away any state secrets, I have put a driver in contact with the team to potentially run in this series next year. The response was, well, that is such an affordable price, I can't afford not to do it.
Yeah.
That's what you get with this racing in this series.
It's a good point. We talk about it being pure excitement, pure entertainment, but it's pure racing as well.
And value.
Often described to me as a bit like 70s and 80s Formula Ford racing, except with bodywork. And I absolutely understand that. It's very closely monitored by Mazda and by the IMSA scrutineers. And that means that it is the driver and the teams that make the difference. There's a little bit of setup work you can do on the cars, but we have great racing, and we're about to go back to that great racing. What brilliant work to clear up that 7-car incident down at turn 4. Yes, we've lost some time, but we've still got just over 21 minutes to go. We're back to green for Idemitsu Mazda MX-5 Cup presented by BF Goodrich here at Watkins Glen. Race 2, a depleted field, 18 cars out of the 27 that we started with this weekend, and the 25 that started this race. Clean start then for Celine Roland from Jared Thomas and Robert Noenger. Series leader Aaron Johnson in 4th position in the dark blue car.
Put the feather in the back of your cap. James Hinchcliffe took that restart P16. Let's see how far up he can get.
I have written that down. I've written it down in pencil. I'll be rubbing it out every lap, I reckon, here. Side by side for the lead. This is the classic move. Down at Watkins Glen, get to the right-hand side before the inner loop, and through to the lead goes Jared Thomas, pushed there by Robert Noiker in the black and white and blue car. Following through, Aaron Johnson goes from 4th to 3rd. That's the championship leader. The bright green car slightly further back down the field is Hernan Palermo, and he is moving up as well. But Jared Thomas is making his bid for freedom with 20 minutes to go. Down to turn 6, side by side. Celine Roland has Gresham Wagner for company. Wagner goes through.
That was decisive by Gresham Wagner, who was very feisty off the start of the race. Clearly not getting to run all of yesterday's race. He's got some pent-up power.
Through at turn 7, the toe of the boot. He's up to 3rd position. Celine Roland restarted in the lead. He's down to 5th. That's Mazda MX-5 Cup.
And we're not even, what, 2/3 of the way down with the lap yet?
Yeah, he was down in 5th position by turn 6. It is just smile-inducing racing. Here's Wagner on Johnson, goes or holds on to 3rd. No, goes up to 3rd. Excellent stuff. So Gresham Wagner, a driver on a mission, taking a completely different line through turn 9, trying to get up the inside of Robert Noiker in the lighter colour car ahead. The red car with the yellow dominant mirrors and cage is our leader. That's Jared Thomas, the JT of JTR Motorsports Engineering. Jared Thomas Racing. Now here comes Noiker in 2nd. He's got the draft. Draft is strong at this track. The open cockpit with the very draggy roll cage makes a big hole in the air, but Thomas is later on the brakes and opens up a 2 cars gap as he goes through turn number 1 onto the red and yellow curbs. Here comes the train behind him. Noiker's right there. Gresham Wagner looks to the outside, getting a little bit of air onto the front of his car. It's easy to overheat if you sit in the draft all the time. You are flat out for such a long time here. Full throttle racing. Top 6 absolutely together. Thomas went defensive early out of turn 4. That's fine. He didn't move in response to anybody. Noiker 2nd. Still Gresham Wagner, sorry. I'm swapping drivers' names around here. We'll just put all the names into a hat and pull them out randomly. It's still Gresham Wagner in the multicoloured car in 3rd. Down to turn 6, Noiker goes to the inside early, might get the push to the lead from Wagner, and Johnson's there as well. Celine Roland, another multicoloured car in 5th position. And who's that off the back of that?
Jonathan
I think that's
Neudorf.
Jonathan Neudorf, yeah. He's the top rookie. Somehow avoided that accident.
Right behind him is Thomas Nunziata, so that'll turn into a good rookie battle here in a moment.
BF Goodrich fastest lap going to Gresham Wagner last time around in the number 5.
For now, I would say.
Well, they're going to have plenty of tyre performance here. The cars at the end of the race probably slightly heavier than they would be because they've not been burning off their racing fuel.
That's true.
So that will play its part on the dynamics of the car and how much energy they dare put in to the BF Goodrich Racing tyres.
Well, no one will be dinged for being underweight. There was a pass under yellow that's going to be reviewed post-race. We don't know who it was, though.
And the whole incident, by the way, that claimed those 7 cars, Matthew Dirks, Woody Hyman, Alex Bachura, Nate Cicero, Clayton Ketcher, Sam Paley and Grant West, that all will be reviewed after the race.
Whoa.
Underneath our feet, great run. Wagner actually had to pull out slightly early. I think he would have liked to have been behind Robert Noiker just a little bit longer. Noiker goes down the inside, but he's not really there. You need to narrow down that corner if you're going to make it to the apex before the person you're racing. You can do that. There's a little bit of camber, a little bit of bank in turn 1. Top, what is it, 6, 7, 8 still together?
Now it's 8, yeah, because all of a sudden Annunziata is closing in on the back of Jonathan Neudorf and Hernan Palermo, the llama farmer, right behind them too. This is getting good.
Fastest lap for Palermo last time around. This time Gresham Wagner goes to the left-hand side. That'll be the outside of the track. The car protesting under the braking. He's gone through the dirt, to 2nd. Pass on the grass with the BF Goodrich tyres. We know their off-road capability. And here comes Aaron Johnson on Noiker as well. The dark blue car on the inside of the outer loop, using that bank turn there to get into 3rd position. And Noiker, having been pushed offline, is easy meat too for Celine Roland. That's how tight it is. 2nd, going into the inner loop. fifth coming into the Tour de Boot, because down the inside Roland will make this pass, and in behind there Thomas Annunziata in the number 10 car. The two Hickson cars identical, bar some extra pink tape on Celine Roland's car. Thank you, Hickson.
You know, the funny thing, yes, thank you, Shay, as well, not me, Shay Holbrook, but thank you very much for giving us this beautiful imagery of the protege and the teacher, because that's what Celine Roland said at the beginning of the year. He was not the elder statesman, but the oldest guy on the team, so he was going to try and help these newcomers to Hickson Motorsport learn his ways to try and get up well within the top 10 of the championship. We are seeing that demonstrated right now.
He is the MX-5 master, and they are his Padawan.
The Yoda.
He is.
Yes. With the car that colored, how could he not be Yoda?
Yeah, well, true enough. True enough. Front of the field, Jared Thomas. They never use the dark side, no. Jared Thomas and Gresham Wagner have pulled out a good 10 MX-5's length to series leader Aaron Johnson. He's worked out he does not have to keep winning these races with the lead he's got, but he must continue to finish. 4 cars, 2 by 2 further back down the field, have just about got through turn 1. And in there, we reminder that James Hinchcliffe went to the back after having to have some bodywork pulled off the JTR Motorsports. He's now up to 13th, and he's right with James Hayashi. And that was the 4 cars that were battling. It was Hinch, Hayashi, Opalski, and Heather Hadley, all pretty much together towards the back of that group. Oh. Big slide for first and second. The red car of Jared Thomas just about held onto it. They both went through the middle part of the inner loop far too quickly, and Gresham Wagner went grass cutting. Tony Cannan's Lawn Care Services has a new recruit.
They already hired him for yesterday's work when he was going into the bus stop with 3.5 wheels on the grass. Now he's gone through the bus stop with 4 wheels on the grass. Gresham, come on, buddy, you've already earned your spot with Tony. You don't have to push it even further.
I tell you what, that was absolutely on the limit driving from Jared Thomas. So much on the limit that Gresham Wagner could not follow him through. There's not a lot of aero on these cars, so you don't get understeer push, you don't get aerial push on these cars, but Jared held on to that car. Gresham just kept his foot in across the grass. Now they're all off the track there at turn 8. You'll have to be careful. We did see some final warnings yesterday at that corner at turn 8.
And there has been a penalty issue for that pass under yellow. It was John Jodouin. He will have to make a drive-through, which is unfortunate because he's currently running in the 9th position, and he and Hernan Palermo were side by side coming out of the final turn the last time around.
Just under 13 minutes to go in this second race of the weekend for the Idemitsu Mazda MX-5 Cup Series, presented by BF Goodrich Tyres. Shay Adam and John Hindhoff in the IMSA Global Broadcast booth.
All right, that is now 4 laps led for Jared Thomas compared to the 7 for Celine Roland. And a new fast lap, that was Celine that time around, so he's got provisionally the 10 bonus points for leading the most laps, for fastest lap as well.
10 points for pole, 10 points for leading the most lap, 10 points for the fastest lap into the pit lane.
Out from behind the wall
out from the
is Nate Cicero.
Right.
He was involved in that crash on the first lap.
Well, he's many laps down, but he's going out to have some fun. 19th position if he can get to the end. I reckon he is... Well, no, actually... that's his first lap, isn't it? Because he didn't complete the first lap.
Correct.
So he will go around. So he is 11 laps down at the moment.
Robert Noaker dropping back as Aaron Johnson makes the pass, and he's got Celine Roland helping him.
No, they've crossed the line. They crossed the line in that configuration.
Oh, so Noaker was having a look.
He was having a look. Aaron Johnson, stout defence with Celine Roland sitting in 5th. It was Thomas, Wagner, Johnson, Noack and Roland across the line. It's still that. It's probably changed 3 times since I looked at the timing screen, in all fairness. That is the way of the world there. That is the way. Side by side for the lead. Thomas on the preferred racing line to go into the right-hander. That is on the right-hand side of the circuit, but can't get it done. Could not get alongside and make a genuine passing opportunity there into the heel of the boot.
I think maybe he didn't want to.
Well, that's a good point. They are beginning to be caught now. They had a good 10 cars lengths between themselves and the battle for 3rd. That's disappeared. So maybe was that pulling him alongside and sort of going, hey, come on, Jared, we're getting caught here.
You're not noticing my hand signals when I'm behind you. Maybe I have to pull up alongside you to get your attention.
Through the final corner, the right-hander again with a little bit of camber, a bit of banking on that. The lead is now maybe with 5 cars lengths. A bit of bump drafting underneath us. Definitely right on the bumper of Jared Thomas. Gresham Wagner, he is there. You can't see him if you're down at turn 1, but I promise there's a green and black car there. Here comes Nowick down this inside of the championship leader. They both ride the curbs on the exit of turn 1, and that will cost Aaron Johnson in the 24, the blue 24, 2 places as Celine Roland drags through right on the rear bumper of Nowick. Nowick now 3rd. Celine Roland in 4th, and 5th now for Aaron Johnson, the series leader. A big intake of breath from both Shea and I here, because that was very tight indeed. And here's the battle for the lead, and again Jared Thomas picks the right-hand line, but round the outside in an audacious manoeuvre. Gresham Wagner, can he hold on to it on the exit? He's right on the curb. Here's Nowick coming through, taking the opportunity. Then Celine Roland in the multicoloured 87 Hickson car. Then the dark blue 24 of Aaron Johnson. Behind that, it's Thomas Annunziata and Jonathan Neudorf. That's your top 7. Absolutely together down into turn 6, and a new race leader, Gresham Wagner, back to the front of the field.
Michael Printup's going to want to have a word with Gresham Wagner, the president of this beautiful speedway, because he pays a lot of money to people to keep the grounds very nice, and Gresham is trying to help. Don't need that help, Gresham. Keep it on the track now. You've got the lead, bud. Just put your head down and go. Wide
exit from the toe of the boot from the blue number 24 has dropped Aaron Johnson down another place. This is not good for the championship leader. He's got to time this right. Just under 9 minutes to go, though.
He can afford this, though, John. He's got a significant lead as far as the championship points are concerned. He can afford one race where he's not on the podium.
Got Jonathan Neudorf, who somehow wasn't too badly damaged, managed to avoid the worst of that incident. The number 55, the orange and white car.
Okay, Jared led 5 laps, Celine led 7, Gresham leading this one. This is going to help Celine Roland because it's 1 fewer lap that then Jared Thomas can potentially take the 10 points away.
Across the line with 8 minutes and 8 seconds to go. Down the inside, Jared Thomas, that's the way to make the pass at turn 1. Nowick couldn't get that done a couple of laps ago, and Thomas stays on the defensive line to the right-hand side of the circuit as they come into turn 2. Slightly stacks up the top 4 cars. Gresham Wagner hung out to dry, not on the optimum line through the right-hander. It's turn 2, and that's really cost him. He's going to drop from the lead to 4th position. Here comes Annunziata dragging through as well with the 24 of Johnson, the dark blue car in there now. Pick a lane, pick a lane. Who are you going to go with? Who are you going to draft towards the inner loop? It's Celine Roland who has the advantage, being pushed by Nowick, and through goes Annunziata as well, and wide for Jared Thomas. He's going to drop down a whole handful of places, and Annunziata, I reckon, gets the best of all of that as he started to come through the field. Again, it's a change of lead. That is phenomenal racing. Annunziata up to 3rd ahead of Gresham Wagner in 4th. Then Johnson in 5th, and at the front of the field, Celine Roland now has Robert Nowick behind him. All change.
Yes, nothing stays the same in this series as Annunziata now getting to know what it's like to work with Gresham Wagner, and then Aaron Johnson right behind. But Robert Nowick is going to be looking for the lead because he knows if he can get there, he can stay there. Did we see the 39 of John Jadouin serve its drive-through penalty? Because the message has disappeared from the bottom of the chart, but I don't recall seeing that car down and visiting us in the pits.
Let me check. I do not have him through the pit lane.
No, and while you're checking that, James Hinchcliffe, by the way, up to 11th and has now passed Hernan Palermo.
I wonder if that's been rescinded.
Could have been. Maybe
the team's had a word. James Hinchcliffe is in 11th position, having dropped down to 16th. He's not out of this yet. He'll want a top 10 finish. He's only 4 seconds away from the lead. He's half a second from Hernan Palermo, who's 1.2 seconds from Jeremy Fletcher.
No, he's past Palermo.
Oh, he's past Palermo, excuse me. So Jeremy Fletcher is his next target.
Jeremy Fletcher and John Jadouin having a good battle is down into turn 1. The lead is under contention. Celine Roland, Robert Nowick are both won it. Thomas Annunziata sees a way through.
The lighter coloured car is Robert Noacker with those purpley blue flashes on the front. He didn't get any help. Nobody chose the back of the 13 car there. The two Hickson Motorsport cars, identical bar that pink tape on the roll bar for Celine Roland. They stuck together and everyone else has gone with. So that means that the 13 drops down to 5th Pacific. Neudorf out of the slipstream, out of the draft as well. Oh, side by side. I think there was a little bit of contact there with Jared Thomas. They both come out of it okay. Our championship leader back up to 4th. He was down in 6th, 7th a moment or two ago. That's the top. That is the top, 8 together?
Celine Roland, importantly, leading the last lap. That means that no one else can lead more laps than him with the amount of time remaining. So 10 bonus points for pole, 10 bonus points for leading the most laps to Celine Roland. Who's going to come away with the fastest lap of the race? Well, right now, that honor goes to Thomas Annunziata,
who's right in the mix, sitting in behind his teammate. The number 10 car, Thomas, involved in the big accident early on, back into the pit lane for Nate Cicero as he heads back down through the lane. He is many laps down at the front of the field. Here comes our championship leader, making a move, trying to get around Gresham Wagner. They're side by side for a moment in turn 8, coming to turn 9 now. Oh, Aaron, as soon as you make an attacking maneuver, you are jumped on. It is like the one antelope moving away from the herd and it's just getting picked up by the lioness. It's quite extraordinary. This is nature in its cruel but unadulterated form.
This is Mazda racing.
This is Mazda racing, yes. In their natural environment, these Mazda MX-5 Cup cars. Across the line again. Just under 4 minutes to go. Roland leading again from Annunziata. Then the number 5 is Gresham Wagner. The lighter coloured car is Robert Noacker. Then Aaron Johnson in the dark blue car. Then his teammate from JTR in the red car with the yellow flashes and the yellow roll hoop. That's Jared Thomas. So 2 Hickson cars there. A Spark Performance, a Robert Noacker racing machine, and 2 JTRs in the top 6, and they are teaming up here. This is team racing in some ways. The 2 Singleton cars have to pick a group to stay with. That was interesting because we had the 2 Hickson cars split there. That one went to the right, one went to the left, and they both got followers. Noacker losing it, coming out of the inner loop now, and he'll get dragged by. He's been put on the clothesline, and he is going to drop back behind the 2 JTR cars. Jared Thomas will get him around the outside into turn 6, or maybe not. Jared goes a little bit wide.
We saw that split maneuver yesterday by the JTR duo of Jared Thomas and Aaron Johnson. I'm wondering how many people watched the race back and figured that might work. We know Hickson did.
It's definitely team racing at the front, but Gresham Wagner now will have the choice. If he's still in 3rd position when they come over the top at turn 4 next time around, which I think will see the white flag actually this time around. It will be one last go. Neudorf having a look down the inside of Jeremy Fletcher. Jeremy's worked his way up in that Copeland Motorsports car to 7th position. Then as Jean Chaudin in 8th. James Hinchcliffe has worked his way back to 10th.
And if you want to know how well Hinch is doing, he has set the 3rd fastest lap of the race. Fastest lap goes to Celine Roland. 2nd fastest belongs to Robert Noacker. 3rd fastest goes to James Hinchcliffe.
Well, we've been told 2 to go at the end. 2 to go, yes, was at the start of that, so we see the white flag this time. Don't confuse yourself, Hindhoff.
Oh, sorry, 2nd fastest is Aaron Johnson. I read the wrong line there.
Right, into the last lap, 3.4 miles. We have 2 Hickson cars with Celine Roland already with the 10 bonus points for leading the most laps.
And pole position.
And pole position, that's another 10 points. Thomas Annunziata, the man from New Jersey. This probably his closest track. Sitting in 2nd, they've got a good gap here. They may not have to split. Now, I think they'll stay together here at the top and try and drag away. This is team racing at its absolute best. But look at the train coming. Gresham Wagner has got 4 cars pull the whistle. Here they come.
Choo-choo.
My goodness, he's going to have to go the long way around. Surely he can't get both of those Hickson cars. He might squeeze his way into second. He will squeeze his way into second. So he's got one more opportunity for the lead if he can get up behind. Off goes our championship leader, the 24, the dark blue Aaron Johnson car. He's dropped down a couple of positions but holds on to sixth, and he's got a grandstand view of this battle for the lead. 5 cars now for 3 steps on the podium. Jared Thomas up the inside of Robert Noaker, the red car on the mostly white machine.
And every step further is another $1,000 in your pocket. That's why these guys are battling so hard right now.
And points for the championship, $250,000, excuse me, for the championship leader. Noaker is not finished. He wants that 3rd position on the box. The battle for 3rd now has allowed the first 2 to get away. It's Celine Roland versus Gresham Wagner for the win. Down to the heel of the boot, and it's on. They are absolutely together. Noaker, along with Annunziata and Jared Thomas, none of them stayed on the track there.
No.
I think Annunziata was so far off, he had to show his pass to get back in again. At the front of the field, it's not over for the win either. Gresham Wagner goes right out onto the dirt to try and straighten out turn 10. Side by side racing, Annunziata and Jared Thomas with wheels almost locking into the final corner for the final time. The checkered flag awaits. Celine Roland is going to pulls across. That's a little bit naughty. He defended coming out the final corner and didn't give racing room to the second place car. Gresham Wagner 0.062 of a second away in second. That's how we do it in MX-5 racing. Yesterday behind the safety car we had big gaps. That was 0.062 between first and second. A big move to the right though, defending from Celine Roland, just about a car's length. Was there a little bit of overlap? Yeah, Gresham was coming. He needed the finish line to be down at turn 1 and not in the middle of the front straight. Robert Noaker takes the final step on the box ahead of Thomas Annunziata, who's the best rookie. Jared Thomas, Jean Jodouin, Jeremy Fletcher and Aaron Johnson managing to take home points for 8th for the championship leader. Nerdorf in 9th place in the Hickson Motorsport number 55. Jonathan's the 2nd of the rookies. And our guest driver, JTR Motorsports Engineering number 3, James Hinchcliffe, fought his way back from 16th up to 3rd, up to 10th position in that number 3. Well, we lost a lot of racing because of that big incident that took out 7 cars. All the best to Matthew Dirks, Woody Hyman, Alex Bashura, Clayton Ketcher, Sam Paley, Grant West. And yesterday's 2 incidents, Anthony McIntosh and Hannah Zellas. But Celine Roland, pole position, leads the most laps and wins the race. Shay with some provisional points.
This will put Celine Roland firmly in 2nd, but he is still 190 points behind Aaron Johnson provisionally. Aaron has 2,400, Celine has 2,210. In 3rd will be Jared Thomas on 2,000 points. And then 4th, I think, Gresham Wagner, 1,840. So the championship has closed up quite a bit, but it's Celine Roland who's going to walk away with this weekend with the biggest smile on his face. Although, that being said, biggest smile might go to Hinch.
I think Hinch has had a great time. I would be surprised if we don't see him back. If he gets the opportunity, I think he'll be back. He told us he wanted to be competitive. He's been all of that. Couldn't be in the fight at the end after damage from that first incident. 2 great Idemitsu Mazda MX-5 Cup presented by BF Goodrich Tyre Races here at Watkins Glen. Both punctuated by some red flags, for some safety car after big incidents. The cars will be fixed. The drivers have walked away. Aaron Johnson continues to lead the championship. Celine Roland takes the 2nd race here at Watkins Glen. For Shea Adam, I'm John Hindhaugh. Bye for now.